Hi, this is Laurie Roselli. I'm going to start with explaining the process of how I came to my literacy inquiry question. I was in a charter school, urban area, low economic, mostly African American students. We had low test scores, marked as a school that needs improvement. We had a lot of struggling readers and writers. So we were constantly brainstorming, what's the problem? How can we get to the bottom of this? What can we do? What can we do? Many meetings with teachers and administrators about this issue and tackling the problems. But one thing came to my attention in one of these meetings about our students writing the way that they speak, which they're speaking African American English as compared to standard American English, usually at home with friends in a more personal setting. Our administrators and our teachers, African American, talk about a dialect shift. They, for example, may speak one way at a party with family and friends, as opposed to in school, professional setting, they would speak another way. They talk about knowing how to turn this on and off. So this is something that they're well aware of. It caught my interest, so I thought, okay, if this is going on in in writing, maybe it's a problem with their reading. So my question came from that. My question is, are African Americans struggling in reading because of the language that is spoken at home? So I found a really great article that correlated with this. The article was entitled African American English Speaking Students, an examination of the relationship between dialect shift and reading outcomes. The study was done on 165 developing African Americans, 1st through 5th graders. Half were male, the other half were female. 1/3 were from low socioeconomic standards, 2/3 were from middle class. The conclusion came to that, according to the article, African American English speaking students that are able to dialect shift to standard American English will outperform students that are not able to make this shift. So if they're able to, so to speak, turn it on and turn it off, they would outperform their students. So I will be implementing my plan to 3rd grade class as a whole group setting, and in the beginning, and we will move to small groups. The goals of these lessons are to demonstrate to the children the difference between African American English spoken and standard American English spoken. First, I will be conducting a 30 to 45 minute whole class discussion on the topic of dialect. I will introduce the vocabulary word of dialect because I'm sure most of them will be unfamiliar with this word. We will gain background knowledge I will be showing them clips from both African American English and standard American English. So I would show them maybe a clip of something they would see, at a party or at home. A lot of having fun, a lot of dialogue going on of African Americans. Then I may show same African Americans speaking in standard American English. And we would compare the two, talk about what's appropriate, what's not appropriate, what can we understand more, what sounds better to the ear. So I will also change the terminology a little bit to school dialect and home dialect, so they know the difference. Where school dialect, we should be using standard American English. Home dialect, they could be using African American English. After that, I will be implementing mini lessons in the next few days to reinforce our whole group discussion. This would be mostly done in small groups. We may start out as whole group, breaking off to small groups. The first lesson, I would just use literature written in regular standard American English and show them short stories, which we use all the time, poems, passages, reading out loud, comparing the ways people talk in different settings, and just stressing the proper English. Another lesson would be using music. I'll play music with lyrics in the African American dialect. I would have them bring in examples, maybe of their favorite song or their, favorite band, and we could use the lyrics to that to compare dialect spelling, school dialect, discuss the language used. The third lesson, we would role play and act out plays with dialogue in both home dialect and school dialect. And we'll compare the two again, understand the difference, the sounds, what's appropriate. The fourth lesson, I would have students discover the grammatical rules, creating lessons for teaching someone school dialect. So they would be coming up with little mini quizzes and tests to either give each other or give to another class. They'll grade them. They'll be like the teachers since they've learned, the difference as a conclusion. But in concluding these lessons, I will keep the issue of contextual use of African American English in the forefront. I will help students feel comfortable with the idea of dialect shifting and have them think of situations in their own lives into which they could be used more appropriate to choice and variety over one compared to the other. We will document our ideas in whole group setting. But as a result of creating this plan and conducting the discussion and lessons, I feel my third graders could benefit from some of these lessons. I already noticed that a lot of my third graders can do this dialect shift. So in that, in this article didn't really go into actually producing lessons, or is it even worthwhile to produce these lessons? Is this just a natural thing that happens, this dialect shifting, or is it something that can be taught? So I need to do some more research with that. As I came to conclusion at the end, as a result of this inquiry, my questions are still there. Do parents, adults teach them this? Talk about, at home, speak this way and speak another way at school, or should formal lessons actually be used to show the examples of this shift, or is it just a natural process? So I found this article very interesting, and the topic was interesting. I don't know if it's, a main reason why, they struggle in reading, but it seems that there's a little bit of correlation there. But I think I would definitely need to do some more research as to whether it's really important, would it really be worthwhile to implement these lessons into a classroom setting. Thank you.